There is no question to me that there's certain organizations who value diversity. Just they believe it's a smart thing to do because they'll bring different perspectives to the table. I don't know how many times someone looked at me and said, you know, we should hire this guy because he's black. But I can tell you, I didn't rise through corporate America because I was black. Because one thing's for sure, I've seen black people come in and I've seen them escorted out. I've seen black people come into organizations and not be promoted. So it was hard work ultimately when I got there. I used to know a woman for years ago, a good friend of mine said she went to Columbia Medical School. And she said she was sitting in one of her first year courses and one of the kids looked at her, one of her fellow students, and said, "You must be here on the Affirmative Action Admit program." And she looked her squarely in the eye and said, "You know, I'm not sure why I'm here, but I can tell you why I'm going to graduate. It's because I'm going to be a better doctor than you." And I would tell you the same, I'd take the same position. I don't think anyone ever thought, I need a black person, so let me go hire Johnny. But I can tell you, perhaps it was a factor, but they didn't keep me because I was black. The diversity in and of itself doesn't mean anything to me. You know, when someone says you're going to hire a black person, okay, so that person has more melanin in their skin than you, the mainstream society. That in and of itself is not valuable. What's valuable is if you bring your perspective to the table and if you have the courage to discuss that. You know, there's nothing worse than someone who is a person of color who wants to assimilate so much that when they're sitting around the table, they actually hide and refuse to openly contribute to the conversation based upon their perspective. Because that's what is valuable about diversity. It's again, I tell people, there's no value. You have 8 people sitting around the table to have one black face, one yellow face, one red face. That is silly in and of itself. But if those people contribute to the dialogue and actually the result and help you the result become better because they bring a diverse perspective, then you're on to something. I'll give you a classic example in the auto industry. In the auto industry, bringing women to the table would help, for example, in a design conversation. They would think of things that were valuable to moms that frankly, as a male driving, I don't even think about because the few times that I'm going to transport my kid and really be responsible for transporting the kid, it just doesn't come to my mind. So the value to this woman at the table is not that she is a woman per se, but that she's had the experience of being a woman and having to drive, and there's a different experience. One might like to think that, well, driving is driving, but it's not. It's different. Something as simple as the seat belt, you know, how it fits across the chest of a man who does not have typically large breasts or breasts of any sort, and how it fits across the breast of a woman. It's very different, and the value that she might bring to the table might make a difference, you know, regarding the overall success of this product. So it's not a media example, but there are very similar type examples in media. What's going to relate well to people of color? What's going to relate well to an older demographic? Those are the sorts of things that diverse talent bring to the table. There are opportunities. When I was at Paramount, for example, we had a movie, The Kings of Comedy, which was a group of black comedians. Fairly low budget, big revenue, and no one would have ever thought about it in the majority community because they don't relate to that. So the value of a diverse executive around the table is to say, here's a market that we've not tapped into that is real, that wants a product from the likes of a Paramount Pictures. Let's go produce it. And I promise you, it may not be, we're going to make as much money ultimately from a profit standpoint as we would on some of our bigger budget movies with less risk.